The soft blue glow of computer screens lit up Dr. Alice Freeman's face as she studied the strange signals. For 3 nights straight, she had stayed at the Lunar Research Facility, ignoring sleep and meals. Something about these transmissions from deep space bothered her. They weren't random cosmic noise, they had patterns, meaning, "You're still here?" Commander Joe Phillips entered the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. His Earth Defense Force uniform looked crisp despite the late hour. "Thought you might need this." Alice accepted the coffee gratefully. "These signals are getting stronger, and I'm convinced they're artificial." Joe leaned over her shoulder, studying the wavelength patterns on her screen. "Any idea what they're saying?" "Not exactly, but they're coming from the direction of Outpost 11, and the outpost itself has gone silent." She pushed her red hair back from her face. "Joe, I think it's a warning." Joe's expression darkened. Outpost 11 was humanity's furthest reach into space, a scientific station with 87 people aboard. His friend Sam had been stationed there as security chief. "I'll notify Admiral Carter. If Outpost 11 is in trouble, we need to investigate." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "Good work, Alice." 3 days later, Joe stood beside Admiral Frank Carter on the bridge of the EDS Defender, Earth's flagship. The Admiral was a tall man with dark skin and gray speckled hair who commanded respect with just a glance. "Still nothing from Outpost 11, sir," reported Communications Officer Diane Lowry. "And the strange signals Dr. Freeman detected have stopped completely." The Admiral nodded grimly. "Keep trying. Commander Phillips, what's the status of our fleet?" "All 15 ships. In position, sir. Defense grid at full power." Joe checked his tablet. "Mars Colony and Venus Station are on high alert. My wife Megan reports that New Washington Colony has activated their shield dome as a precaution." Joe tried to hide his worry. Megan and their 5-year-old son lived on Mars while he served with the fleet. He had tried to call them earlier, but the communications had been spotty. "Sir?" Diane's voice rose with urgency. "Multiple objects approaching from beyond Saturn's orbit. They're moving at... That can't be right." She looked up, face pale. "If these readings are correct, they'll reach Mars in less than 20 minutes. Admiral Carter straightened. "Identification?" "Unknown design, sir. Nothing matching our records. Count is 47 vessels, all larger than this ship." "First contact protocol," Carter ordered immediately. "All channels open. Broadcast peace messages in all languages, and get me a direct line to Earth Central Command." Joe felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had been alone in the stars until now. They had found microbes on Europa, simple plant-like organisms on Venus after the terraforming began, but never intelligent life. The alien fleet moved with impossible speed. Before Earth's ships could intercept, before the Admiral's peace messages could be acknowledged, the first attack came. New Washington Colony on Mars erupted in flames visible from space. "No!" Joe screamed, watching the live feed from Mars orbit. The colony's shield dome shattered like glass under the aliens' weapons. 50,000 people lived there. His family was there. Admiral Carter gripped the command rail. "All ships, defensive positions. Get civilians evacuated from outer colonies now." He turned to Joe. "Commander, I need you focused. There's nothing you can do for Mars right now." Joe fought back tears, straightening his shoulders. "Yes, sir." The aliens' message came an hour later, after 3 more colonies were destroyed. They called themselves the Arcturian Collective, an alliance of species who had watched humanity's expansion with growing concern. Their spokesperson, a tall being with pale blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes, spoke perfect English. "Our predictive models show with 98.7% certainty that unchecked human expansion will threaten galactic stability within 1 century, the alien stated coldly. Your species' rapid technological development, combined with your biological aggression, patterns creates an unacceptable risk. The collective has voted. You will be contained." Admiral Carter tried to negotiate. "We mean no harm to any species. We are peaceful explorers." "Your history contradicts this claim," the Arcturian interrupted. "We have studied your wars, your destruction of your own planet's ecosystems. The decision is made. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was a slaughter. Earth's fleet, humanity's pride, lasted less than 2 hours against the Arcturian weapons. Admiral Carter ordered evacuation after the 7th ship fell. "Get to the escape pods," he told Joe, blood running down his face from a head wound. "Someone needs to warn Earth." "Not without you, sir," Joe insisted, helping the injured admiral through the burning corridor. "That's an order, Commander," Carter growled as the ship shuddered around them. Meanwhile, on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, engineer Samantha Wells watched in horror as the research base was evacuated. 2 minutes until transport launches," announced the base AI. "All personnel must report to Docking Bay 3. Samantha hesitated at her workstation. On her screen sat the data she'd been collecting on unusual energy signatures from the outer system. Data that might now explain how the aliens had approached undetected. Data that might help Earth fight back. "Wells, move it!" her supervisor shouted from the doorway. "1 second," she called, quickly transferring the files to a portable drive. This might be humanity's only chance. The transport barely escaped as the Arcturian ships destroyed Titan base. Watching from the viewport, Samantha clutched the data drive. "They'll pay for this," she whispered. "I'll make sure of it." On Earth, in Miami, Paul Hernandez was walking his dog when the sky lit up with emergency broadcasts. Neighbors poured into the street, faces illuminated by their phones as news spread of the attack. "They're saying Mars colony is gone," said Mrs. Kelly, from next door, her voice shaking. "And the fleet?" Paul's sister was on the EDS Defender. He tried calling her but couldn't get through. When the Arcturian ships appeared in Earth's sky 3 days later, humanity was still reeling. They established an orbital blockade, shooting down any vessel that tried to leave atmosphere. Their message was broadcast worldwide. Humanity will confine itself to Earth. All space technology will be surrendered. All off-world colonies will be eliminated. Compliance is not optional. To demonstrate their resolve, they destroyed the International Moon Base with a single shot. 10,000 people died instantly, in the ruins of what had once been Miami's Arts District. Paul recorded the Arcturian ships with his phone as they hovered above. His neighborhood was destroyed in the precision strikes that followed worldwide, targeting key military and scientific facilities. Paul's footage, showing the calm before destruction, and then the blinding flash that claimed everything he knew, would later become humanity's rallying cry. Humanity had been judged, attacked, and defeated in less than a week. But in bunkers and shelters around the world, as survivors gathered and grieved, something else was building. Rage, determination, and the first sparks of a plan for vengeance that would one day shake the stars themselves. 5 years passed. Earth changed under Arcturian rule. Once busy spaceports stood empty. Skies once filled with satellites and shuttles now showed only the alien ships that enforced the blockade. People learned to live with less food, less power, less hope. But underground, beneath the ruins of Rocky Mountain Command Center, humanity prepared to fight back. Admiral Frank Carter studied the holographic map of the solar system. His face carried new scars from the initial attack, and his left arm had been replaced with a simple prosthetic. Earth no longer had the resources for better ones. Around the table stood the other members of the Resistance Council. "The Arcturians have reduced their patrol ships near Saturn," he said, pointing to the display. "They think we're beaten. That works in our favor." Dr. Alice Freeman nodded. The past 5 years had hardened her. She rarely smiled now, focusing instead on the work that might save them all. "My team has made progress," she said. "We've reverse-engineered parts of the communication device from the crashed Arcturian scout ship. We can listen to their transmissions, now though we can't decode all of them yet." Samantha Wells, now chief engineer of the Resistance, pulled up her own data. The former Titan base engineer had escaped with crucial information that gave humanity its first real chance. "The Arcturians use quantum entanglement for instant communication across the system," she explained in simple terms. "But we've found a pattern to their encryption. Alice's team can decode about 30% of their messages now." Kate Martinez, who had once been a simple radio host in Chicago before the invasion, spoke next. "My network has grown. We now have people in every major settlement reporting Arcturian movements. Her underground broadcasts kept hope alive among the scattered human survivors. Commander Joe Phillips entered the room late. He looked older than his years, grief and determination etched into his face. Since losing his family on Mars, he had become the Resistance's most effective field leader. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "My team just returned from the Aberdeen raid." Carter nodded. "Report." "We hit their supply depot and got out clean. Minimal casualties." Joe placed a small device on the table. "And we found this." Alice picked it up, curiously. "What is it?" "Some kind of data core. It was in a secure container. Must be important." Alice's eyes lit up. "I'll get it to the lab right away." 3 days later, the council met again. Alice could barely contain her excitement. "It's a complete tactical database," she announced, "including the reason they attacked us in the first place." The room fell silent. For 5 years, they had wondered why advanced aliens would target humanity so ruthlessly. Alice projected the translated data. "The Arcturians use predictive algorithms to identify threats. They run simulations of how species will develop over centuries. According to their models, humanity would have become unstoppable within 100 years. They saw us as a future threat and decided to eliminate us before we could challenge them." "So they attacked us for something we hadn't even done yet?" Kate asked, disgusted. "Yes. But that's not all," Alice continued. "The collective isn't as united as they want us to believe. Several member species opposed the attack on Earth. They argued that the predictive models were flawed or that preemptive genocide violated their ethical codes." Admiral Carter leaned forward. "If the collective is divided, we can exploit that." Joe studied the data. "There's something else here: fleet movements, patrol schedules, and look at this, the location of their command vessel. The hologram showed a massive ship in orbit around Jupiter, bigger than anything humanity had ever built." "That ship coordinates the entire blockade," Samantha said. "If we could disable it." Joe's eyes narrowed. "Then we might have a chance to break free." The next week saw frantic activity in the hidden bases around Earth. In her lab, deep beneath what had once been Denver, Alice worked with her team to develop what she called the Blackout Protocol. "It's a virus," she explained to Joe as they shared a rare cup of real coffee, "designed to temporarily disable their quantum network. If it works, they won't be able to communicate for about 20 minutes. "That's our window then," Joe said. 20 minutes to strike." Across the globe in Australia's outback, Samantha supervised the modification of mining ships that had been hidden from the Arcturians. The aliens had destroyed military vessels but overlooked the industrial ones, thinking them harmless. "We've adapted the hulls to absorb scanner frequencies," she told Eric Davidson, a former Special Forces operative who had lost his family on Mars. "They won't see us coming until we're right on top of them." Eric ran his hand along the ship's dark metal surface. "What are we calling them?" Samantha smiled grimly. "Stealth ships. Not very creative, but accurate." "And they'll get us to Jupiter?" "If Alice's calculations are correct." "One way at least." In what remained of London, Kate Martinez broadcast her coded messages to sleeper cells worldwide. Her voice, transmitted through old radio equipment, reached survivors everywhere. "When the North Star aligns with the broken tower, remember your promise," she said, a poetic way of setting the date for the coordinated uprising. Lisa Chen, the tactician who had predicted the initial Arcturian attack but hadn't been heeded, now planned the ground operations. Her small frame moved with quiet efficiency as she marked targets on physical maps. They couldn't risk digital plans the aliens might intercept. "We need to hit these power relays simultaneously," she told her team of resistance fighters. "The Arcturians will respond to the closest threats first. That creates our diversion." Back in the Rocky Mountain headquarters, Admiral Carter and Commander Phillips finalized Operation Prometheus. They named it after the figure from human mythology who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. "It's a one-way mission for most of us," Carter said quietly. "You understand that?" Joe nodded. "I volunteered knowing that." We'll need a ground commander for the Jupiter assault. Someone who can make decisions when communications go dark. I'll lead it, Joe said without hesitation. I've been waiting 5 years for this chance. Carter looked at his friend. This won't bring them back, Joe. I know. But it might save everyone else. Joe's voice was steady, and I made a promise at their memorial. I intend to keep it. The night before the operation, the base was quiet. In his quarters, Joe held the only photo he had managed to save, Megan and their son laughing on a sunny day in Mars Colony's dome. Garden. He touched their faces gently. Tomorrow, he whispered. In labs and hangars around the world, final preparations were made. Alice loaded her virus onto portable drives. Samantha ran final diagnostics on the stealth ships. Kate recorded the message that would signal the beginning of humanity's last desperate stand. Admiral Carter couldn't sleep. He stood in the command center, looking at the faces of his people, tired, determined, ready to risk everything. He had led them through 5 years of occupation and suffering. Tomorrow would decide if humanity would remain caged on Earth forever, or take back their place among the stars. The countdown to Operation Prometheus had begun. Dawn broke over a world holding its breath. In resistance bases across the globe, men and women prepared for what might be humanity's final stand. They moved with quiet purpose, checking weapons, securing equipment, saying goodbye to loved ones. At Rocky Mountain Command, Admiral Carter addressed the gathered team leaders. His voice was steady, his scarred face solemn. Today we execute Operation Prometheus. Today we remind the Arcturians and ourselves that humanity will not be caged. He looked at each face in turn. Some of us won't return. But if we succeed, our children might have stars to explore again. Joe Phillips checked his gear one last time. The stealth ship Vengeance waited in the hidden hangar, loaded with the strike team and Dr. Freeman's virus. Joe would command the mission to the Arcturian command vessel orbiting Jupiter. Alice approached him, holding a small device. The blackout protocol is ready. This needs to be connected directly to their main communication hub. She hesitated. There's something else. A second program. Joe looked at her questioningly. I call it the Truth Protocol. It will release all the data about humanity. The real data, not their manipulated predictions, throughout their network. If we can't win by force, maybe we can win with truth. Joe took the device and secured it in his chest pocket. I'll make sure it gets where it needs to go. Across the hangar, Eric Davidson checked weapons with his team. The former Special Forces soldier would lead the boarding party once they reached the command vessel. Remember your training, he told his people. The Arcturians have better tech, but we have surprise and motivation. Hit fast, stay together. Lisa Chen reviewed the tactical plan with her officers. As ground coordinator, she would direct the worldwide distractions to pull Arcturian attention away from the stealth launch. Timing is everything, she reminded them. Each target must be hit exactly as scheduled. Not a minute early, not a minute late. At the communications center, Kate Martinez prepared to broadcast the coded message that would trigger the global uprising. She took a deep breath, thinking of the millions who would risk their lives when they heard her voice. Ready when you are, Admiral, she said into her headset. Admiral Carter checked the mission clock. Launch in 30 minutes. All teams to positions. Samantha. Wells made final adjustments to the stealth ship's systems. Her hands moved confidently over the controls, recalibrating the scanner-absorbing technology one last time. These will get you there, she told Joe. The rest is up to you. Joe nodded. Thank you, Sam, for everything. Just make them pay, she replied simply. The mission clock counted down. 20 minutes. 10 minutes. 5. Admiral Carter gave the final order. Begin Operation Prometheus. Kate's voice went out across hidden radio frequencies worldwide. The North Star aligns with the broken tower. Remember your promise. Across Earth, resistance fighters sprang into action. In what remained of Paris, explosives destroyed Arcturian power relays. In Cairo, rebels attacked alien patrol units. In Tokyo, Seoul, and 100 other cities, carefully planned distractions drew Arcturian attention planetside. The aliens responded, exactly as Lisa had predicted, deploying their forces to deal with the closest threats first. Their command communications surged with activity, calling for reinforcements, reporting attacks, issuing orders. "They've taken the bait," Lisa reported, watching the tactical display. "Orbital patrols are diverting to support ground forces." "Launch window confirmed," Samantha announced. 90 seconds and counting. Joe gathered his strike team for final words. "Remember why we're doing this. For those we lost. For those still here. For those who will come after us." He looked at each face, knowing some would not return. "Let's go make history." The stealth ships launched from hidden bases in the Himalayas, the Atlantic trenches, and Antarctica. Their dark hulls absorbed scanner frequencies as they accelerated upward, invisible to Arcturian detection systems. In the command center, Carter and his team watched the mission monitors tensely. "All ships away," reported the flight controller. "No signs of detection." The stealth fleet slipped past the distracted Arcturian blockade. As Earth fell behind them, Joe allowed himself one moment to look back at the blue planet. Then he focused. Forward. Jupiter waited, 500 million kilometers away. Using an acceleration technology reverse-engineered from captured Arcturian ships, they covered the distance in hours rather than months. The gas giant grew larger in their viewports, its great red storm swirling below, and in orbit around it their target, the massive command vessel that controlled the entire Sol system blockade. "Approaching Jupiter orbital zone," Joe announced to his crew. "Prepare for Phase 2. On Earth, the diversionary attacks continued. The resistance suffered losses but kept fighting, drawing more Arcturian forces into engagement. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Lisa coordinated the global efforts. "Sydney sector under heavy fire," she reported. "London holding. Moscow compromised." Admiral Carter nodded grimly. "Keep them distracted as long as possible." In orbit around Jupiter, the stealth fleet maintained radio silence. They approached the command vessel from below, using the planet's radiation to further mask their approach. 2 minutes to contact, Joe told his boarding team. "Suit up." Eric and his squad checked their breach gear one last time. They wore armor cobbled together from salvaged Arcturian technology and human ingenuity. Each carried weapons designed specifically to combat the aliens. "Remember," Eric said, "we need to secure the command center intact. That's where the communication hub is." The stealth ships closed in on the massive Arcturian vessel. It dwarfed them, a city in space, housing thousands of aliens from the various species of the collective. 1 minute, Joe said. "Dr. Freeman, initiate blackout protocol." Back on Earth, Alice activated her virus. Through carefully hidden backdoors in the Arcturian network, her code spread rapidly. Across the solar system, the quantum communication network stuttered and failed. On the command vessel, alarms blared as systems went offline. Confusion spread through the alien crew as they suddenly found themselves cut off from the collective. "Blackout confirmed," Joe announced. 20 minutes. On the clock. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta." The stealth fleet revealed itself, firing concentrated pulses at the command vessel's weapon systems. The Arcturians, taken completely by surprise, responded slowly and ineffectively. "Boarding teams, go," Joe ordered. Eric led the first wave through, the breach blasting their way into the massive ship. The fighting was intense, human determination against alien technology. They pushed forward meter by meter toward the heart of the vessel. On Earth, Alice watched her monitors anxiously. Blackout protocol holding, 17 minutes remaining. Admiral Carter paced the command center. Now we wait. Inside the Arcturian command vessel. Joe followed the boarding team, the truth protocol device secure against his chest. They fought through corridors and chambers unlike anything human eyes had seen before. The aliens rallied, their initial surprise giving way to coordinated defense. "Command center ahead," Eric reported, voice tight with tension. Heavy resistance. Push through, Joe ordered. Whatever it takes. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as they made their final assault. The corridor leading to the Arcturian command center was filled with dense blue smoke. Alien weapons fire cut through the haze, forcing Eric and his team to take cover behind strange curved pillars. "We're pinned down," Eric shouted to Joe over the comm link. "They've set up a defensive line we can't break through." Joe checked the mission timer. 12 minutes until the blackout protocol ends. "We need to move now." Lisa's voice came through, broken, with static. "Commander, we're detecting movement from the other Arcturian ships. They're starting to realize something's wrong." Aboard the stealth ship, Vengeance, Samantha monitored the situation. "If those ships engage, our extraction just got a lot more complicated." Joe made a quick decision. "Eric, I'm coming to your position. Sam, prepare Plan B. If we're not out in 15 minutes, you take the fleet home." "That's not the plan, Joe," Samantha protested. "It is now. We finish this no matter." "What?" Joe grabbed extra breach charges and ran through the Arcturian vessel to join the boarding team. The alien architecture was disorienting. Corridors that curved in impossible ways. Gravity that shifted subtly between sections. He reached Eric's position just as another wave of Arcturian defenders arrived. These weren't the blue-skinned Arcturians they had fought earlier. These were different. Tall, insect-like creatures with multiple arms wielding advanced energy weapons. Another collective species, Joe realized. They're bringing in reinforcements. Eric pointed to a small maintenance shaft above them. "That might lead behind their lines, but it's too small for most of us." Joe looked at the narrow opening. "I'll go. Give me covering fire in 30 seconds. "Commander, that's suicide," Eric said. Joe checked his weapons. "Maybe. But we're all dead if I don't try." Eric nodded reluctantly. "The rest of us will push. Forward when you breach. Good luck." Joe squeezed into the maintenance shaft. It was barely large enough for a human to crawl through. He suspected it was designed for some smaller servant species of the collective. The tunnel twisted through the ship's infrastructure, filled with strange pulsing cables and humming equipment. He followed the shaft toward what he hoped was the command center. The timer on his wrist showed 9 minutes remaining. Back on Earth, Alice paced nervously in the control room. Blackout protocol showing signs of failure. They're developing countermeasures faster than expected. Admiral Carter gripped the edge of the command table. "How much time can you give them?" "I'm trying to reinforce it, but their systems are adaptive." Alice's fingers flew over her keyboard. 8 minutes, maybe less. Around the world, the diversionary attacks began to falter. Arcturian forces, initially scattered and confused, started to coordinate their responses despite the communication blackout. Kate's voice came over the comm system. "London team lost contact. Cairo holding, but barely. Sydney completely overrun." Carter closed his eyes briefly. So many lives sacrificed for this one chance. "Keep fighting. Every minute we buy them matters." Inside the Arcturian vessel, Joe reached the end of the maintenance shaft. Through a small grate, he could see the command center, a vast chamber with a central platform surrounded by holographic displays. Arcturian officers moved frantically between stations, trying to restore their communications. At the center stood the High Commander, taller than the others, with elaborate markings on its blue skin. It barked orders in the Arcturian language, gesturing at the displays that showed the human attack in progress. Joe placed his last breach charge on the grate and backed up as far as the narrow shaft allowed. "Eric, get ready. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The explosion tore through the command center. Joe launched himself through the smoke, firing at the surprised aliens. From the corridor, Eric and his team finally broke through, catching the defenders in a crossfire. The fighting was brutal and close. Humans and aliens engaged in desperate combat. Energy weapons against retrofitted guns, armored exoskeletons against human determination. Eric took a direct hit, protecting one of his team members. The blast burned through his chest plate, but he kept firing, dropping 3 more aliens before falling to his knees. "Get to the hub," he gasped to Joe, pressing a grenade into his hand. "Finish it." Joe fought his way toward the central platform where the High Commander had taken cover. The alien leader was protected by a personal shield and surrounded by elite guards. 5 minutes, Lisa's voice warned over the comlink. Joe tossed Eric's grenade. The explosion shattered the shield generator, leaving the High Commander exposed. The alien drew a ceremonial weapon, a curved blade that hummed with energy. "Your species will die here," it said in perfect English. "We're already dead," Joe replied, raising his gun. "You made sure of that 5 years ago. Now it's your turn." The High Commander was faster than Joe expected. It dodged his shot and closed the distance, slashing with its energy blade. Joe felt searing pain as the weapon cut across his side, burning. Through his armor, he stumbled backward, dropping his gun. The wound wasn't fatal, but it was deep. The High Commander advanced for the killing blow. "Mars," Joe whispered, thinking of his family. Then something shifted inside him. A final surge of rage and determination. For Mars. Joe lunged forward, surprising the alien. They crashed together onto the central platform. The High Commander's blade came down, missing Joe's throat by centimeters and embedding itself in the control panel. Systems sparked and failed around them as Joe grappled with the much stronger alien. The creature's multiple eyes glared with hatred as its hands closed around Joe's throat. With his remaining strength, Joe reached into his chest pocket and pulled out Alice's device, the Truth Protocol. As the alien choked him, Joe slammed the device into the still-functioning part of the control panel. "Game over," he gasped. The device lit up, connecting to the ship's systems. The High Commander realized what was happening and released Joe, trying desperately to remove the device. Too late. Throughout the command center, all displays changed at once. Data flowed across every screen, the true information about humanity, not the manipulated predictions that had justified genocide. The real history, culture, art, and potential of the human race spread through the ship's network, and then beyond. As the blackout protocol failed and communications were restored, the Truth Protocol rode the reopened channels, spreading to every collective vessel and outpost in the system. "What have you done?" the High Commander demanded, backing away from the platform. Joe pulled himself upright, pressing a hand to his bleeding side. "Shown you who we really are, not who you feared we might become." On Earth, Alice watched in amazement as her systems registered the Truth Protocol's activation. "It's working. They did it." In the command center, the fighting stopped as aliens paused to watch the flood of information on their displays. Images of Earth, human achievements, records of peaceful contact attempts, all streaming through the ship's systems. Joe lowered himself into the High Commander's chair, suddenly exhausted. "Eric," he called through his comlink. "Status?" Silence. "Eric's down, sir," another voice responded. "Most of the boarding team too, but we've secured the command center." Joe nodded, though no one could see him. "Tell Samantha to stand by for extraction. We're not done yet." The battle for humanity's future had entered its final phase, with truth as the ultimate weapon. 3 days after the battle at Jupiter, Admiral Carter stood in the ruins of what had once been the United Nations building in New York. Beside him were representatives from every surviving human settlement. They watched as an Arcturian shuttle descended from the clouds. "Are we sure about this?" asked General Harris of the Australian Resistance. "It could be a trap." Carter shook his head. "If they wanted to finish us, they could have done it already." The shuttle landed softly on the cracked pavement. Its doors opened to reveal 3 different alien species: the blue-skinned Arcturians, the insect-like warriors, and a third race with flowing robes and delicate features. The robed alien stepped forward. "I am Diplomat Sealer of the Meridians. We have come to speak of peace." Carter straightened to his full height. "We're listening." Aboard the medical ship returning from Jupiter, Joe Phillips woke from surgery. His side was bandaged where the High Commander's blade had cut him. Samantha Wells sat beside his bed. "Welcome back," she said with a tired smile. "You've been out for 2 days." Joe tried to sit up. "The mission?" "Success. Better than we hoped." She handed him a tablet. "The Truth Protocol did more than show them who we are. It revealed corruption within the collective leadership. Apparently, several species had been manipulated with false data, not just about us. Joe studied the information on the screen. 3 species have broken away from the collective. The Meridians, the Teltari, and the Vox. They were already suspicious. Your evidence gave them the push they needed. Samantha helped him sit up. The Meridians are negotiating with Admiral Carter right now. And the blockade? Partially lifted. Some Arcturian hardliners are still fighting, but they've lost support from the rest of the collective. Joe closed his eyes briefly. Eric? The boarding team? Samantha's expression grew somber. Eric didn't make it. 4 others from the boarding team survived. They're recovering on the other medical ships. Joe nodded silently. So many lost. He thought of Eric's quiet determination, his sacrifice to ensure the mission succeeded. It was worth it, he said finally. They would think so too. At the conference in New York, the discussions continued for hours. Dr. Alice Freeman presented evidence of the flawed predictive models that had condemned humanity. Kate Martinez shared stories of human resistance and survival. Admiral Carter outlined humanity's terms for peace. The Meridian diplomat Seller listened carefully to each presentation. Unlike the Arcturians, the Meridians were empathic, capable of sensing the emotions behind words. We have been part of the collective for 10,000 years, Seller explained. In all that time, no species has shown such resilience or ingenuity when faced with extinction. Your truth protocol exposed more than just the lies about humanity. It revealed corruption that has been growing within the collective for centuries. An Arcturian representative named Corvin spoke next. Many of our people were deceived as well. The High Command manipulated data to maintain control. Those responsible are being removed from power. Carter's expression remained skeptical. Pretty words. But words won't rebuild our colonies or bring back our dead. No, Seller agreed. But this might begin to make amends. The Meridian activated a holographic display showing Arcturian ships withdrawing from Earth orbit. The blockade ends today, and we offer technological assistance to rebuild what was destroyed. 6 months later, Joe walked through the rebuilt lunar research facility, the place where it had all begun, where Alice had first detected the strange signals. Now it housed a joint human-alien scientific team studying interspecies cooperation. Alice greeted him at the entrance. She looked different, less haunted, more hopeful. Commander Phillips, right on time. Dr. Freeman. He smiled. Not a commander anymore. Just a civilian now. Never just a civilian. She led him through the facility. How's the orphanage project going? After the war, Joe had started a home for children who had lost their parents in the conflict. It gave him purpose, a way to honor Megan and their son. We have 23 kids now, good kids. He looked out the viewport at the stars. They deserve a better future than we had. They'll have it, Alice assured him. The Meridians have been true to their word. Their medical technology alone has saved thousands, and Samantha's team is making incredible progress adapting their faster-than-light technology. They reached the main conference room where representatives from Earth and the former collective members were gathered. Admiral Carter, now head of the newly formed Galactic Relations Council, nodded at Joe. Just in time, Carter said. The summit is about to begin. The meeting marked a new chapter for humanity. The peace terms were finally being formalized after months of negotiation. Earth would rejoin the galactic community not as subjects but as equals. Human defense capabilities would be respected. Reparations would be made for the lives lost. Most importantly, the predictive algorithms that had led to the conflict would be retired, replaced by direct diplomatic engagement between species. After the summit, Joe stood on the observation deck looking out at the Earth floating in the blackness of space, a beautiful blue marble that had almost lost its place among the stars. Seller, the Meridian diplomat, joined him. Your people have accomplished much in 6 months. Joe nodded. We're good at rebuilding. We've had lots of practice throughout our History. The Arcturians feared that quality, your adaptability, your persistence. They saw it as a threat. Sailor's multifaceted eyes reflected the starlight. They never considered it might be your greatest gift to the galaxy. A message alert sounded on the facility's communication system. Alice's voice came over the speakers. Attention all personnel. We've just received a transmission from deep space beyond the former collective boundaries. Other civilizations wish to establish contact with Earth. They've been monitoring our stand against the collective. The first delegation will arrive next month. Joe listened to the excited voices that filled the facility. New contacts, new possibilities, new futures opening up. The stars that had witnessed humanity's near extinction would now see their resurgence. Later, that evening, Joe visited the memorial wall that had been erected in the facility's central garden. Thousands of names covered its surface, those lost in the initial attack and the years of resistance that followed. He found the section dedicated to Operation Prometheus and ran his fingers over Eric Davidson's name. "We did it," he said quietly. "We took back our future." As Joe turned to leave, he noticed a small human child and a young Meridian standing together by the viewport, pointing at the stars and talking excitedly. Different species, different histories, sharing wonder at the same universe. Perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.